What's up YouTube? Glock 69 here. In this video, we're going to talk about loadouts, guns, and without rule of law. Loadouts and firearms one may need for without rule of law is a often debated subject on YouTube where everyone argues over what gear they think you need. Sometimes there are some pretty informative people. Other times there are some entertaining people. In this video, I want to go over my philosophy and the loadouts I'd actually utilize in without rule of law and why I think they're actually practical. When without rule of law or SHTF occurs, the initial phase, a lot of people are going to be very confused and they're just going to try to make sense on what is actually happening. There will be criminals, marauders running the street, and most people will just try to protect what little stuff they actually have. So I know for sure initially most people are going to be in a defensive role. They're not going to bug out to a bug out place where they don't even have established. Most people don't have that luxury. Most people barely have any preps. Even Minutemen who are more established don't usually have a bug out location, and most of them are smart enough, well, some of them are smart enough to know they probably can't go out and survive in the mountains, in the desert, the forest, wherever, especially with the family. So bugging out is not going to be the most realistic choice. This first loadout I want to show you is a defensive loadout. It could be adapted to, another context, but mostly it's for defense of my home and my neighborhood. For those criminals, those marauders, maybe some tyrants, maybe some people are handing out free train tickets. This is for those people. Before we get into this loadout, remember it's your responsibility and your responsibility alone to be prepared for without rule of law. That means you have to be your own resupply, you have to be your own logistics, you have to be your own trainer up to and in the time of without rule of law. And as far as my loadouts go, my personal philosophy is the best option for myself is to have more options. That way I can tailor and adapt my loadout for a specific task at hand. If I'm solely in a defensive role in a place where I have home court advantage, other resources, other people around me, I will most likely be using a plate carrier. Now there are some pros and some cons to plate carriers that we all know about. First one being plate carriers do stop bullets. As far as the cons go, mobility and agility is lacking. So here's my carrier. This is my carrier. It's one of the older crye JPC 1.0s. I do like this one and I see no need to replace it. It suits me just fine. I do have level 4 plates inside. By level 4 standards, they are lighter weight plates. 3 rifle on the front, retained by bungees. I have my radio pouch on the right side. I have a double rifle pouch on the left. I have 2 magazines in here. The other pouch, I can put more magazines in there if I really needed to, but most of the time I use it just as a general purpose pouch. I can add stuff or take away stuff as needed. This is my belt. I just replaced my old one. I do like the padded belts just because they're comfortable. You can wear them for hours at a time and not get irritated. And they do distribute the weight over a larger surface area. Also, you do not need to rely on an inner belt system to wear this. You can clip it over whatever you're wearing and it works just fine. The primary reason I have the belt is so I can have my IFAK on the rear because it's a very convenient place to put the IFAK. It's out of the way and you can reach it with either hand. I also have a dump pouch on the rear so I can dump empty magazines or put any souvenirs in there I find along the way. Another rifle pouch, 2 pistol, and a Safariland holster. Safariland is the best holster I've found over the years. I use the level 2. I see no need for a level 3. Most people have the level 3, do so because their occupation dictates it. As far as carrying a pistol or not, a lot of people argue back and forth on that. Personally, situation will dictate exactly what I need to take. Alright, this is one of my helmets that I use a lot. It is a bump helmet. It's very lightweight and extremely comfortable. In the front, I do have my Wilcox G24 so I can run my night vision when I need to. I do have my counterweight pouch on the back. I don't put lead weights in here. If I don't have a battery pack on the rear of the helmet, I just put actual batteries in a counterweight pouch. I don't like to have dead weight in here just doing nothing but balancing out the helmet, so I can put batteries in here. And even if I have to use these, My helmet is set up relevant to my head size, regarding the pads and the suspension system, so even if I take this off, it'll still work out just fine. Night vision is expensive, but it's one of the only technological advantages that the average person can acquire. That as well as thermal. So I do recommend that you do get it if you can't afford it. This is the rifle I use with this loadout. It is a 16-inch AR-15. Aimpoint comp M4 on the top. Very solid red dot. Takes AA batteries. Very common battery. Full power dbal A2. Great laser. Very good, photonic barrier penetration. I've tested it a lot in my general area, and it's the best thing that I've used yet. I do like a 16-inch barrel just due to velocity, energy, and the flatter trajectory. And you can get decent performance with just basic M193 and M855. I do have a flash hider on here. I always choose a flash hider over a compensator just because of signature reduction. Sling on every rifle. This is a Ferro Concept sling. One thing I do like to have on all my rifles is multiple sling attachment points, just so I can attach it at different spots depending on how I want to actually have the rifle slung and secured to my body. Other than that, it's a basic rifle. I have backup iron sights for the red dot. I do recommend you do have backup iron sights for your red dot. If I have an LPVO or a nice etch reticle, I don't worry about it as much, especially if I have an offset red dot, but I do have backup iron sights for this red dot. One thing I do like to have on all my rifles is some type of cheat shield, I guess you can call it, on the rail. These are just rail panels. When you shoot 2, 3, 4, 5 magazines in a rapid succession, your rail and your rifle will heat up. So if you don't have a glove on, you can burn your hand by just touching the bare metal. So I do like to have something on the rail. Besides that, I have a dual surefire pressure pad on this rifle. It's going to be personal preference if you want to use the tail cap or the pressure pad. On my other rifle, I have the tail cap. This one I just have the pressure pad set up, and it's very intuitive. This next loadout is set up to deal with the mountainous terrain that is in my surrounding areas. Remember, your loadout and your weapon should be set up relative to you, your location, and the situation at hand, and nothing else. Here is one of my chest rigs that I use a lot. It is one of my personal favorites. It's a Haley strategic chest rig. I have 4 rifles in the back, retained by bungees with very thick pull tabs that I absolutely love. I have 2 pouches on either side. This one I have a bunch of batteries, a Glock tool, some ear protection, some gum, and some weapons lube. In this one, I do have my Benchmade sock pea. Also have a flashlight, and I do have a multi-tool. 3 things that can, complement any loadout. This little pouch right here, I'll either throw a tourniquet in there like I have right now, or a radio, just depending on the situation at hand. 2 pistol. If you want to leave the pistol at home, you can probably put like 50 glow sticks in here if you want. It's a joke, relax. But I do like this chest rig. It's not a micro chest rig, but it's still pretty compact and pretty ergonomic. If the situation allows it, I'd much rather take a smaller backpack instead of a larger pack. Even in this bag, I can still put 7 magazines and still have enough room to get the bare essentials all in this bag. Remember, the more weight you have on your back and hips, the less mobile you'll be. So if weight is that big of an issue, I definitely leave this belt at home, and I can just put a smaller IFAK on the rear of an EDC belt, or even molly this IFAK onto the pack. Your helmet, and especially your night vision, should never be left at home, regardless what you're doing, so you don't run into a Black Hawk Down issue. Alright, this is the rifle I prefer to take, especially in mountainous terrain. It also has a 16-inch barrel, so you will be getting good velocity, good fragmentation or expansion, just depending on what ammunition I actually use. And it's very accurate and extremely soft shooting. This rifle has almost 0 recoil whatsoever. One of the big differences is the optic, which sits on top. This is a nightforce NX8. It is the 1:8 to LPVO. It's compact, it is lightweight, that's one of the reasons I like it. It has decent 1x capability with a very bright reticle, and it is a 1:8. Now, is magnification necessary? Well, it is an advantage in a lot of situations, but remember, the most successful sniper in human history smoked 505 commies with iron sights. So it really is going to come down to the person behind the optic and not the optic itself. One thing I need to have on my rifle is both passive and active aiming capabilities for night vision, because I do not want to have to put out a signature to actually aim this rifle with night vision. And with this nightforce 1:8, you can actually passively aim with it kind of okay, as long as you have the diopter set appropriately on the LPVO and your optic. You can see pretty well, and if you can spotlight with your illuminator, you can see even further. When it comes to clothes without rule of law, what I actually do is hunt the thrift stores and the Goodwill stores. I got this for $10. This is a desert combat jacket for the Marines. I see these used in good condition for $170 to $190 because they do have Gore-Tex in them. So very good score. This is a brand new, very nice and very insulated jacket from Rotary. Also under $10. Besides these, I've got about 15 to 20 more nice articles of clothing that I've all found just in the last 3 or 4 months alone. Now obviously this wasn't every single thing in both of these loadouts. These are just the key items that I think are relevant to this video. And the point of it was just to show my loadouts and to demonstrate that not everyone needs the exact same thing. We're all different, we have different levels of skill, we'll fall into different roles, and without rule of law, we live in different places in a vast country with a very diverse landscape. So you can't just go and copy someone else's loadout or someone else's rifle. If you want to make it out on the other side of that rule of law, you cannot waste your time now. Like I said earlier, you need to be your own resupply, your own logistics, and your own trainer. Only you can depend on yourself and no one else, especially in a grid down or without rule of law situation. And when it happens, it's going to be unlike anything we've seen thus far. If you want to see me go more in depth on fighting rifles, setting them up, or optimizing them for night vision use, check out some of my recent previous videos. I'd appreciate it. And if you made it this far, I definitely appreciate you more than you ever know. And I'll see you guys in the next one.